Hello everyone and welcome to Trisha Reads Books. You can also find me at the Bee's Knees Bookish Corner blog. All information can be found down below in the description. In today's video, I'm going to do a January wrap-up. Frankly, when in the grand scheme of things, I had a disappointing month of reading. I read a total of 5 books, 4 of which I will discuss today. And while I would say 3 of them were excellent, 2 of them, well, one of them especially was a huge disappointment, whereas one, it's the first in a series, so I am reserving judgment. Anyway, we'll see how it goes and hang on for the ride. So the first book I read this month was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, and it was definitely a 4-star read for me. I really enjoyed Cline's world building abilities. He really made me want to live in that world. I would love an oasis for myself. I'm not going to go into it too much because it is an older book, and I am sure you've heard it all before. Next we have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This was also another 4-star book for me. It was dark and suspenseful, if I can spit that out. Crouch is a master at world building. Totally enjoyable book. If you enjoy suspense and science fiction, I highly recommend this book. Crouch does science fiction excellently. He makes you believe that this totally unbelievable world could actually exist, and it makes you a little afraid of what would happen should you find yourself in the same situation in the midst of this book. The next book we have is The Swans of Fifth Avenue by Melanie Benjamin. This is a historical fiction book set in the 1950s in Manhattan. It is about Babe Paley and her friends who are socialites, and they befriend Truman Capote and give him entree into Manhattan society. So you learn a little bit about Capote, you learn a little bit about Babe Paley. A totally enjoyable book. Great historical fiction. I really recommend it if you are like me and are a fan of historical fiction. The next book I read this month was titled The Fountain of St. James Court, or A Portrait of the Artist as an Old Woman by Sina Jeter Nosland, and I am probably butchering her name. That sign says it all. I just did not enjoy this book. It's told from the third-person point of view. Some chapters, the main character, Catherine, she is an older woman. She's just finished writing a novel, and it just, that part of the book, those chapters, the Catherine chapters, oh my god, it's her walking around her house and be totally introspective. There's hardly any dialogue during, I mean, that's not what the problem was. It's not the lack of dialogue, it's the inner dialogue that was awful. She just dwelled on all this negativity, all the people she's lost throughout her lifetime, and all of her divorces and failed relationships, and the failed relationships of her son, and you're listening to all this, and then she'll pull in these little vignettes every once in a while that are told from the perspective of her neighbors and friends and her one of her ex-husbands, excuse me. And there's like one part, and I'm reading it, and I'm waiting for something to happen, and then I'm like, what did this have to do with this story? And you know, Nosland, or Jeter Nosland, whatever her name is, she could have left that part out altogether, that scene, and it would not have changed the story at all. Now, the interesting parts of the book were were told in the first person from the point of view of artist Elizabeth Lebrun. I'm not sure, it's French. You may have heard of her. She lived during the time that Marie Antoinette did in France and Paris, and she survived the French Revolution, and she's nowadays a world-renowned artist. But back in those days, in the late 18th century, she was ahead of her time. late 16th century. Yeah. She was ahead of her time, and people actually speculated that it was a man painting her works and not herself because that's how good she was. And that was unacceptable in those days. So those chapters were told. It begins when Elizabeth is a little girl. She's in convent school, and she grows up and told about her family life, how she, her love of painting grew, her just her relationship with her mother, that was a focal point when eventually she gets married, and then the French Revolution happens and she has to flee France. So those parts of the story drew me in. I read them very fast, and sad when they were over. And then you switch back to the Catherine chapters, and I'm telling you what, this book took me almost 2 weeks to read because it was painful. The Catherine chapters, I just did not care about that woman. The book was not written to, it didn't seem like you were supposed to care about her so much as maybe pity her. I can see the parallel because at the end of the book, Elizabeth is an old woman, and so is Catherine. So that's, I'm assuming, where the parallel comes in. They were both old women, how they both ended up in their late lives. But you know what? What the author was doing, I think she failed. It was just disappointing. And this is the second book I've read by this author, and I did not enjoy the first one either. So maybe her writing style and the devices she uses in her writing just aren't for me. They just don't appeal to me. And there you have it. Those are the books that I read for this month. I hope you enjoyed the lettering. I realize it's kind of hard to see. I need to figure out how to focus or zoom in. Anyway, so if you have any questions about the lettering, the markers I used, the paper I used, or any of the books, if you have questions that I did not answer, please feel free to leave a comment, and also like and subscribe. Have a fabulous day.